In the last video guide, I described the historical and the intended developmental levels for readers, specifically beginning readers and independent readers. In this screencast video guide, I'm going to start looking at the learning and teaching model, which is the 9 boxes in the middle here. We can see it's learning model. So I'm going to click on that and I'm going to open that. And I'm going to describe the learning and teaching model that typically happens in Victorian Australian primary schools, early years literacy reading. So I'm going to rename the learning model to that, just so I'm really clear. Again, we have 9 components, pretty similar to the last, to the development models, except for 4 boxes, we have 9. And again, we have prompting questions. And when we're doing these, developing a learning and teaching model, it's really good to start from wherever you start, feel safe from starting. If you want to start from the sequence or the learner role. And so really what is 9 components that describe learning and teaching. From the sequence, the steps that the lesson plan goes through, or even the cognitive steps, you know, if you're looking at a 5E, explain, enhance, whatever, or if you were looking at a project, you might say design the project, work on the project, present the project. Obviously, it's going to be a bit more complicated than that. So it's really the sequence that the learners go through. So it may be a linear sequence, it may be an iterative sequence, or the sequence might be a little bit more fuzzy. And then we start to, often then we go then to talk about the learner role. What are the learners' responsibilities and what are their role? What's the educators? We look at the strategies, again from the strategies, so what are the learning strategies and what are the concrete enablers and tools and technologies that enable the strategies to work from the learners. And we look at both these boxes from the learner's point of view. We look at the culture, what sort of environment and unwritten rules, and the policies, which are the written rules that enable the learning and teaching model to function effectively. We look at what is produced in the outcomes. What do the learners produce through undertaking these learning activities? And we also look at the pedagogical beliefs. So what are our beliefs about learning and teaching that drive the design of the learning and teaching model? So for early years literacy, again, I click on the heading. Early years literacy reading model uses a whole, small, whole model. So the sequence is whole class modelling by the teacher. So that's the first step. Then they work in small groups and then they share at the end. And I've already completed this because you don't want to watch me type. And you can see that I've used different colours to talk about each of the 3 steps. So whole group modelling, small group activity, and then a whole class sharing reflection. And I've looked at what's the learner's role during the whole group? Well, they'd observe. During the small group activity, they'd complete tasks, work with the teachers. So again, I'm trying to keep this fairly succinct, and I've used 3 separate colours, but maybe you don't want to do that. So what I do now is, I describe the learning and teaching model, the 9 boxes, paint a picture of what learning teaching. If I go back to the board now, you can see that we've filled in the historical and the intended developmental levels, and we've filled in the learning teaching model. So our IOI board is well underway. In the next screencast, I'll be looking at the vision and the innovation thesis and completing our IOI board. Thank you for watching.